What's going on, guys? It's Killer. Welcome back to the channel. Now, it has been a while since I've created a video covering Bitcoin, and the reason why I haven't created one is because we are following through with exactly what I predicted, right? Which was a higher time frame macro retracement. Now, if you do go on my previous videos, you would have seen that I mapped out this entire retracement from 120k, positioned into shorts at 123k, which were all public. I also shorted 95k, and we pretty much caught this entire move towards the downside. So I'm going to be covering my higher time frame thesis, what we could see developing over the next couple of months, and obviously what we could see in the next couple of years in terms of a bull market and my bull market targets. So starting off, we can see Bitcoin has had 5 consecutive red monthly candles, and we have never had more than 6 monthly red candles. So we could see a candle where we have a move towards the upside or a bearish retest. But going over to the weekly here, starting to look at what is happening, we can see that Bitcoin has retraced below its previous all-time high, which is around that 69k region. We obviously have this range which is forming here. So what do I expect? Well, I think Bitcoin is positioned precisely here. This is that capitulation wick below them lows, right? Last cycle we had significant lows, which we came down to revisit. Obviously, we had lower highs, deviation above, and we can see Bitcoin broke that trend line and had the move downwards. So it was obvious that this level was going to get compromised and break. Why? Because the broader trend showed that we had our all-time high, we had a bearish retest, another lower high, we had another lower high, another break here, we had deviation below, and what do you see? Another lower high. So where do I think Bitcoin is? Well, I think we are precisely here. We've had the capitulation below one significant swing low. This was a significant swing low last cycle, and this is our significant swing low this cycle. Now you're probably wondering, well, Killer, you can't compare 2021 cycle to this cycle. You can't compare this to that. Well, the market's based on patterns, right? If we are following or mimicking a previous pattern and it works, which it has been working for me for many years, then I'm going to continue to do that until the pattern breaks. However, I don't trade just based off patterns, right? I trade based off a lot of other technical factors, which I will not get into in this video because then the video will last for 10, 20 plus hours, right? So breaking things down from a lower time frame perspective here over the next 3 to 6 months, what do I see? I think we are here. So I think we are going to form a lower high around this area, around below this swing low, which we had here. So around here, Bitcoin should not get above 75k. However, we do have a CME gap, which is at 82k. So if Bitcoin does get above 74k, we could go to that gap before this continued move below 50k, right? So this is definitely a possibility which could happen. I'm not outweighing that. All higher time frame CME gaps eventually get filled. However, for us to do that, we need to get above 74. If we do not get above 74, well then guess what? We are going to continue on this downwards movement, similar to what we saw here, and we're going to have this move back downwards, right? So if I quickly remove my drawings here, we are precisely here. This is the capitulation wick. We had a few weeks of sideways movement, which we are seeing now. So a few weeks of sideways movement below the significant swing low. So this is this exact same comparison. And if Bitcoin starts breaking and compromising this low, which we can see around 65k, well then guess what? We're going to break below to that 50k mark. So this is something which I'm eyeing as a development for buying even more Bitcoin. For those of you who saw my previous video, I had fractionalized entries, something like this, where I am scaling into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is minus 53% from the highs. What am I doing? I am adding to my long-term bags. I am giving myself market exposure, right? I sold most of my assets around 108 to 123k. I made this very public in doing so. The reason why? Because I expected a higher time frame macro retrace. Now that we've seen that retrace, now we are approaching a macro bottom. Well, I wouldn't say bottom. It should take another 3 to 6 months for us to completely bottom out here, but we are approaching a bottom based on the risk reward factors in terms of downside versus upside, right? So if I wanted to give my higher time frame targets of where I think we're going to bottom, I think it's going to be around that 50k to 40k region, which is around here. And you're probably wondering, well, Killer, why are you buying now if you know it's going to there? You see, that's the thing. I do not know if it's going there. Everything is based on probabilities. Everything is based off math. Eventually, the cycles are going to change. Eventually, the retracements are going to change. That means that we could literally be bottomed precisely at this moment, and I will never know. However, based on the math, we should have an extension downwards. However, when it comes to buying higher time frame spot positions, I am looking to gradually scale into the price. We can see Bitcoin's down 53%. What do I see most? I see maybe 65 to 70%. So am I going to risk being front run on this particular move for this move towards the upside? No, I am not. So I have been gradually buying Bitcoin, and my targets for the next 3 to 4 years are going to be 160 to 180k for Bitcoin, which I think we will hit at around 2029. So my target is going to be 160 to 180, and I expect that 2029 around this price region here. We have this bottom in formation like this, and then we have that recovery all the way to the upside. Obviously, it's not going to be a straight line like this. It's probably going to be something like this, where we see a push upwards. We have our resistance first try, we form a higher low, then we push through, have a resistance here, and then same thing. It's going to be like a Wyckoff schematic pattern here, where we see our redistribution, our reaccumulation, and so forth, right? That is what I expect to happen here. So based on where we are now, I think we are precisely at this previous wick low, and over the next 3 to 6 months, what do I see? I expect this to happen, meaning we are in for some very choppy conditions. So I expect us to chop for the next 3 to 6 months around this price region. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I expecting August to be the bottom? Well, if we start looking at previous fractals here in terms of where Bitcoin bottoms around, we can see that every single bottom is around Q4. We have Q4 November, December, Q4 November, December, Q4 November, December. So if we start measuring that particular price region, which is the end of this year, we can see October to December is where we are going to expect a bottoming zone. So theoretically, if we continue to have this chop and remain in this bearish trend, because we are bearish, we are having lower highs and lower lows, we can see we're respecting this bearish trend, similar to what we've seen multiple times in the past. If we respect this bearish trend, then based on the mathematics, we should bottom in Q4, which is around October. But eventually, we are going to bottom sooner than people expect. And the reason is quite simple, because the cycles are going to change. We had the halving around this price region here for Bitcoin, right? And guess what we did? We formed a new all-time high pre-halving. We never done that before, right? So the cycles are gradually shifting here. Because we formed an all-time high pre-halving, maybe we bottom sooner than previous cycles. So because of that, that is why I am scaling in gradually to the market. So this is what I'm expecting to develop. I am buying into my higher time frame long-term bags, and I expect us to obviously create new highs or do something like this within 2028 to 2029, and that is where I expect the market to topple out, where we're going to have a massive bubble, market's going to collapse, and I think that there's going to be a massive economical collapse across the board with legacy assets and so forth. So that is what I'm expecting. Hopefully this video has helped, and I'll catch you guys later.